Hi, and welcome to another edition of Emerge Already. I'm your host, Jade Simmons, for this series which offers tips to lessen the plight of the aspiring concert artist. This episode, we're going to be talking about something that's extremely important, and that's capturing the attention of the media. In particular, we're going to be focusing on what I like to call the big three, and that's print, radio, and television. Now, I know it seems like getting press coverage is a daunting task, but it doesn't have to be. And tonight, we're going to be focusing on the things that will help you make sure that the probability of your getting covered by the media is as high as possible. The main thing you need to know when dealing with mainstream media especially is they want the answers to these two simple questions, and that's why you, why now? And you need to be able to answer those questions as efficiently as possible. Let's jump right in and get started with the category of print media. Now, when I say print, I'm simply talking about things like newspapers, magazines, and of course, online pieces. Now, coverage in print media in some ways is the easiest to get, but only if you understand the art of the press release. There are three things that are crucial to making for a good press release. The first one is that you have to understand angles. Secondly, you need to know how to make a good pitch. And lastly, it's critical to understand the timing for press releases. Now, when I say angles, I'm talking about how you position yourself for this particular press release. So for instance, let's say you're an advocate for new music and you're going back to what happens to be the hometown of a certain composer whose piece you're about to premiere. That's your angle. Now you need to find a pitch. Now the pitch can correlate with timing or another significant event that's going on around the same time as your upcoming event. So say for instance you're doing an all romantic music recital and it just happens to be right around Valentine's Day. That's going to be your pitch. So you found your angle, now you've got your pitch. And then finally you need to understand how crucial timing is. You don't want to send in your press release too early because then it'll get lost in the shuffle of all the other press releases sitting on a journalist's desk. And you don't want to send it in too late because it means that you don't have any respect for the deadlines that they're under. So you need to make sure that you're sending it in when? Right on time. I like to send in my press releases about 1 to 2 weeks ahead of the event, but be mindful of the publication that you're sending to. You need to do your research, know what their press deadlines are, and know that if you want a bigger feature, you probably need a longer lead time in order to establish a rapport with the journalist that you're sending your press release to. Another crucial thing you really need to understand is the current day situation of arts journalism. All over the country, newspapers are cutting back, and mostly this hits the area of the arts. So now you have only 1 or 2 reporters whose job it is to cover the entire world of the arts. So you need to be mindful of that and understand that because they're so crazy busy now, they don't have time to dig around and try to find out who you are. So with your press release, don't just have it be the facts, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, but make it be a real story. Have it read like the story or the article that you want to eventually see written on you. If you craft your press release this way, it makes their job easier and it makes the likelihood that they'll find you interesting much higher. And be as personal as possible when you finally reach out to that reporter. Know their names, understand the publications and the people behind the media that you're reaching out to. Here's a bonus tip. Instead of waiting around for print media to cover you, why not do the writing yourself? If you have a knack for creative writing, there's no reason why your article shouldn't be published in this publication. Now we're moving on to the second part of this powerful triumvirate of media coverage, and that is radio. You've got to take advantage of the broad exposure that radio play can give you. For the most part, you're going to need radio for 2 things. You have a new CD out that you want to promote, or you have an upcoming concert that you want the world to know about. So you're going to contact that radio station in hopes that they're either going to have you on for an interview, or if you're very fortunate, you're going to go on for an interview and a live performance. So when you're thinking about local radio, understand that many local stations want to feature local artists. So do your research. Know the programs that are on your local radio stations. More importantly, know those hosts. Know what types of artists they tend to feature, what type of music they tend to play. And then you're going to need to establish contact and send them your product. Now, if you're lucky, you have a record label that is doing this for you. They've already sent out your CD, but maybe you haven't received any requests for interviews from these stations. So what you need to do now is establish contact, and I think the best way to do that is by way of gratitude. Simply email these stations, email these program hosts, and thank them for playing your music. And then offer them the chance to get to know you better and do an interview live on the air so that your audience can understand your process behind the music. Now let's say you don't have a record label working on your behalf. No sweat. You can still send in your product, but do so without all the cellophane wrapping. I have it on good authority that radio program hosts rarely open the CD if it's all wrapped up, so make it as easy as possible for them and send it along with a note telling them, once again, that you hope they play your music and that if they do, you would welcome the opportunity to come on the air and talk about the CD or about whatever upcoming projects you have. Now, ideally what you want to do with radio is you want to create a radio tour. You could literally travel around your state or region and do these tours live on the air. Or if you don't have the cash for that or the time, you can set up phone interviews, which are just as successful, and then the radio host will interview you live on the air, but they'll play clips from your CD. Either way, your music is getting out there, and almost in a way, more importantly, the world is getting to know who you are behind the music. Now here's my bonus tip when we're talking about radio. Instead of waiting around for a radio host to find you interesting enough to cover, why don't you create your own radio show? These days, with the abundance of technology that we have, you don't have to be hired by a local radio station to put out your own podcast, your own show that not only plays your own music, but maybe more importantly, highlights the artistry of other emerging artists around you. Okay, we are moving on to the most coveted type of media coverage, and that is the world of television. It's undoubtedly the hardest type of media to infiltrate, and that's for one reason, and that's because more than any other medium, television wants to know why now. Take, for instance, the Miss America pageant. Every year, it happens on a Saturday night. That young woman is crowned Miss America, and by Monday morning, she is in New York, and she has hit the ground running, and she is on just about every talk show imaginable. And the reason they don't wait a whole week to get her on the air is because they know the public is going to be the most interested in her right after she has just garnered the title of Miss America. The same goes for you as an artist. The media wants to know, especially TV, they want to know, what have you just done that we need to put on the air right now before it's old news? On the local level, in every city in America, every town has its own Oprah, its own Dr. Phil, its own morning host that would love to feature you on their show, especially if you have an event coming up in their city. It makes you completely relevant. Now, you guys are smart, so I bet you know what my bonus tip for television is going to be. Instead of waiting around for Oprah to decide, why not create your own show that highlights the artistry of other artists around you? You can upload your own show to YouTube, to Blog TV. There are lots of different sites that will allow you to build a presence in the world of media. You don't have to wait around for media to come to you. You can jump in and become a part of media yourself. And the wonderful irony of all of this is that once you start to expand your reach outside of the performance arena, you'll find that the media suddenly takes even a more keen interest in what you're doing as a complete artist. They find you more worthy of coverage because you make for a much more interesting story. Be the boss of your own art. Take charge. Don't just sit around and wait to be discovered. You can highlight your own talent, and you can highlight the talent of those around you. All of those are valuable things that society needs, and why shouldn't you be the person to give that to us? Now, hopefully you've been paying close attention and taking notes and eating your carrots, and you'll know that this is the place to come back if you want more information that's hopefully going to lessen the plight of the aspiring concert artist. Can't wait to see you right here next week on Emerge Already.